Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Kentucky Oaks Countdown. I'm Nicole Russo in Lexington, Kentucky, joined by Dan Illman in New York. We're just under a week and a half out from the September 4th Kentucky Oaks, which, of course, was postponed from its original first Friday in May date. Here are the fillies currently under consideration for the Oaks in order of the points they have earned. We're down to 10 prospective starters if Project Whiskey is a supplemental nominee at entry time. That's, of course, less than the 14 maximum starters allowed. And Dan, one of the reasons for that is that big headline showdown at the top between Swiss Skydiver and Gamine.
They are definitely the marquee names of this division. Gamine is electricity. She is excitement. The question is whether she can last a demanding mile and an eighth against a horse like Swiss Skydiver, a filly that is hickory, that shows up each and every time. And her only blemish recently came against the boys, and she ran a bang-up second to a legitimate Kentucky Derby contender and art collector in the Bluegrass.
Absolutely. It's an exciting matchup. It's one of the headline events of the week at Churchill Downs. Let's start our closer looks by taking a look at Gamine, who I do expect to be your favorite off two brilliant props as she looks to give trainer Bob Baffert his fourth win in the Kentucky Oaks. Now, her last two props, although brilliant, came around one turn. First with that electrifying win in the Acorn at Belmont. And then this race that we'll watch here, she won the test at 7 furlongs at Saratoga. She did cross the line first, besting Speech, going 1 1/16 in an Oaklawn allowance, was later disqualified for a medication violation. Dan, thoughts on her ability to take this speed around two turns?
I think it is a legitimate question mark that handicappers and horse players must answer, because you're going to be taking a relatively short price on Gamine. You mentioned the race against Speech at Oaklawn, and while she was very game to win that race, it was the least visually impressive of her 4 starts. I think the plan is going to be, she's going to be sent from the gate. She's going to try to take them as fast as she can for as long as she can, and she might very well be good enough to win. We just saw the test. A brilliant 108 Beyer speed figure score coming on the heels of a 110 Beyer score in the Acorn. If she can run anything close to those numbers in the Kentucky Oaks, she'll be very tough to catch and very tough to beat.
Well, on the other side of the coin, you have Swiss Skydiver, who's maybe not as dazzling, but who has just blossomed around two turns for trainer Ken McPeak, who is looking for his first Oaks win. She's won 4 of her last 5 starts. The only loss in that span, as you mentioned, came when she was second in the Bluegrass to Art Collector, who's expected to be the second choice in the Kentucky Derby. She's won the Gulfstream Oaks, the Fantasy, the Santa Anita Oaks, and finally got her Grade 1 here in the Alabama in impressive fashion.
And she deserved this Grade 1 after dominating this division for the most part of the spring, over the winter and into the spring. And just look at the way she's widening, going this 1 1/4 miles. You know the 1 1/8 distance of the Oaks is not going to be an issue for Swiss Skydiver, who has just such wonderful tactical speed. She can go to the front. She can sit just off of the pace, and she's iron. She shows up each and every time. It doesn't matter what racetrack you put her on. She is going to show up, and she's pretty fast as well. Gamine had better have him nailed on tight, because Swiss Skydiver is not going to be too far behind in the early portion, and we might have the race we've been waiting for 5/16 of a mile out.
Well, and let's look at some of the other fillies of note in this field. While those two are heads and shoulders above the rest, there are some other nice fillies in there, like Donna Veloce, who has run some brilliant races on her day. Brad Cox with a pair in there, and Bonnie South and She Dares the Devil, the latter of whom has a win at Churchill this year. And then, of course, there's Speech, who's coming off this breakthrough Grade 1 win in the Ashland after being bested in her prior 2 starts by Gamine and Swiss Skydiver.
I think this is the intriguing filly that's lurking beneath the weeds from a parimutuel standpoint. We see Speech putting away a very nice filly in Venetian Harbor in winning this race in the Ashland. Now, she was no match for Swiss Skydiver at Santa Anita. You might be able to argue that Swiss Skydiver had the run of the race that day on the lead over a speed-friendly track. And we all remember that Speech took Gamine to the limit at Oaklawn Park. I think Speech has been managed brilliantly by her connections. And if Swiss Skydiver and Gamine are more focused on each other than maybe anyone else in the rest of the field, perhaps Speech is the one at a price to upset the apple cart.
Well, final entries for the Oaks and post positions will be drawn next Monday, August 31st. We'll wait and see how things shake out with these final works and final preparations leading up to the race. But I think that on race day, I'm personally going to wind up leaning towards Swiss Skydiver with all her route ability, coming home to Churchill Downs where she won her debut last November. Dan, your thoughts on how this might shake out next week?
It certainly makes sense, your analysis there. Swiss Skydiver's ability at this distance, her consistency, her versatility from a race shape standpoint certainly puts her in good stead. Something tells me that Gamine might be a very special filly, however, and you can't discount Bob Baffert in any major race, whether it's the first Friday and Saturday in May or September. I have a feeling its Speech is going to run very well, though, and I'm going to wait, like you, until post positions are drawn in the final workouts, but maybe I would take Speech at a decent price. Don't hold me to it just yet.
Well, we'll wait and see how things shake out in the coming days and the coming week leading up to the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby the first weekend in September. Make sure that you're following along all week for the latest news and information and analysis from our team on DRF.com and on DRFTV. Thanks for tuning in to the Oaks Countdown.